And then a lot of them will have success. And they get to a point where it's like, well, now what do I do?
Right.
Well, if you never gave up that thing that you love, it will drive you the whole time.
And it's not this or that. It's how is it this and that? And how can you make it work? And we all can. We all can. I mean, holy cow, if you can, none of us have any excuse. That's the reality of it, is you are a fantastic inspiration for what is possible, what is doable. And I'm thrilled that you're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Game Changer Podcast. My name is Michelle Dutro. I'm your host, and I am joined today by Dennis Connors. He is a former United States Marine who spent 9 years in military intelligence, supporting combat operations alongside special operations units in Iraq. His service earned him some of the highest commendations in the U.S. military, including the Defense Meritorious Service Medal. After sustaining traumatic brain injuries and experiencing a stroke in 2020, Dennis didn't step away from a challenge. He adapted to it. We're going to talk a lot about that. Today, he is a Paralympic silver medalist, a UCI world champion in paracycling, a national champion in paraclimbing. We're going to talk about that too. That's crazy. And one of the most accomplished adaptive athletes competing at the elite level. But beyond the podiums and performance, Dennis is a husband, a stay-at-home dad. Woo, we had to deal with that a little bit today, and a powerful advocate for community healing and never quitting the things that you love. Dennis, what did I leave out that folks need to know about you before we jump in?
I don't know. I really like coffee and I really like to cook.
Okay.
Cooking's kind of my jam.
All right. I almost feel like we're going to talk about long walks on the beach and it's going to be like a Match.com write-up. So, all right, your wife probably wouldn't appreciate that. So we're not going to go down those avenues. But I'm thrilled to chat with you. Those were my words. For everybody listening, give us the story behind. I mean, listen, I've interviewed some elite athletes. I've interviewed some over-the-top people who are doing things that are like superhuman. But it's an interesting combination of doing things that are at an elite level and superhuman after some pretty significant setbacks. You're a first in that realm for me. So I want to talk through, let's just start with what happened to that allowed these setbacks to even occur. I mean, look, I do believe everything happens for a reason, and your message now is so powerful and so meaningful for so many people that have every reason under the sun why they can't do whatever. And you're the beacon of hope for anybody saying, don't let anything stop you. But some things set you back. So talk us through those things before we get into how amazing you are.
I think the very first part of it is that I really follow my passions. And you said earlier, like one of the things I talk about a lot is never giving up on the things that you love. And really that's kind of where everything stems from. Like it's everything I stand on is never giving up those things that you love. And that basically starts with rock climbing. And I started rock climbing when I was 11 years old. Right. And it was the 90s. Like it was in its infancy, like the indoor climbing scene, in its infancy. But rock climbing is an awesome sport that takes you to some really amazing places, right? It's kind of like one of these lifestyle sports that you can really get behind and just your whole life is behind it, right? I think there's some other one, like I would equate surfing to it. I would equate skiing, snowboarding, which I also do, to it. And it's just these lifestyle sports that take you to these really incredible places. So growing up rock climbing, I got to go to all these amazing places and all these travels and adventure. I ended up doing like independent study during high school because I was on the national climbing team as a youth. Some of the guys I climb with, they're still professional climbers to this day. One of them just climbed a building in Taiwan. And we just had this amazing childhood that just instilled this sense of adventure. And then you add that sense of adventure to the sense of, and pride of serving the country and being on the US team. And then, I really looked up to my grandfathers and my uncle who served in World War II and Vietnam respectively. And I just felt that call. Like I was like, okay, you know what? Like this is what I'm gonna do. So I joined the military when I was 17 years old. I wasn't even 18 yet. My parents had to sign off on it. But they were super supportive and I joined. And I originally wanted to be a pilot. So I was going to go through some like reserve officer training and become a fighter pilot through that. However, the Marine Corps had a different idea for me. I scored on some tests, entered into the intelligence service because they convinced me that I was going to do this like super spy career thing. And later, kind of it would be, but at the beginning, it was not. And I joined the Marine Corps in March of 2003, right before we invaded Iraq. We were pretty heavy in Afghanistan. I was really inspired by that as like 9/11 and all of the things that came with that. And I made the decision to join my senior year of high school. Fast forward 4 years, it took me 4 years to go on my first combat deployment. Like they signed me up as a linguist. And I was like, oh sweet, I'm gonna learn like this crazy language. I'm gonna like do all this spy stuff. Those schools take time.
Mm-hmm.
Arabic, to learn Arabic, it's an 18-month course, plus a 6-month follow-on. Marine Corps didn't have that time because what we really do as linguists is what's called signals intelligence collection, right? So we're intercepting enemy communications and then we would have a native speaker translate it. But we had to have the clearances and the ability to run the equipment to do that. So they sent 30 Marines through Spanish instead of like Arabic or Chinese Mandarin because it's a 6-month course,
Wow.
2-month follow on, straight to the Marine Corps unit, straight to Iraq.
Learning Spanish.
We didn't use it.
I wouldn't
We
wouldn't
didn't
think
need it
so.
because they're like, well, you're going to run the
Wouldn't
box
wouldn't.
and this native speaker is going to do the translation. You're going to run the equipment because it's top secret. It's all this encrypted stuff. Okay, it's not what I signed up to do, but fine. I do really well at the Spanish course. I got meritoriously promoted, end up not going to the Marine Corps unit and get sent to National Security Agency.
Hmm.
So I actually did use Spanish because I worked counter narcotics for 3 years or two and
Wow.
a half years. But I
Wow.
also during that time, got another promotion, um, worked with some interesting folks at the NSA doing the counter narcotics stuff, became an analyst, doing less of the translation work, more of the signals collection and targeting work. And that set me up right for the 2007 troop surge. I was not doing well in the Marine Corps, surprisingly, at that time. Like, I had a lot of disciplinary problems, I had a lot of issues with leadership, and it's because they stuck me behind a desk. I joined the Marine Corps as a climber, all these things to like adventure and go out and
Right.
do stuff.
Right.
And that's when I had my first encounter with like a true leader who didn't just put me down, but stood me up and helped me. And he was an incredible leader and he saw a lot of himself in me, like as a young Marine. And he was like, look, man, you are doing terrible here. We need to deploy you. Somehow you need to deploy. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And so with those like analyst training, I was able to like wiggle my way onto a team for the 2007 troop surge. And I got deployed with a small team of Marines supporting an Army unit.
Hmm.
Well, right there, we go to an Army base. We're five Marines, 6 Marines. Um, we have to be the toughest guys on base, right? But we're 6 Marines on an Army base. Yeah, let these Army guys show us what's up. That's when I would experience my first undiagnosed traumatic brain injury, right? And we had some combat and whatnot, and I just toughed it out because one, earlier in my career, one of my leaders looked at me and was like, "Look, you're gonna get hurt. Part of the job. You're a Marine. Tough it out. Suck it up. Like pain is weakness leaving the body. Remember the T-shirt that they gave
Yeah.
you when you signed up?
Yeah.
Like, do that. Check. Got it. But during that deployment, I flourished. Like I went from being like, I might get kicked out of the Marine Corps to I'm getting promoted and I'm going to change job and I'm working with special operations and it was just like, yes, this is where I'm meant to be. And I loved it. And during that time, I found out that there's another side of intelligence called human intelligence and counterintelligence, and that's what I originally thought that I was going to do in the Marine Corps. So during my time in Iraq, I re-enlisted while deployed in combat because I loved
Wow.
it so much.
Wow.
I laterally moved. You have to go through like a big selection process for selection into the counterintelligence field in the Marine Corps. Um, and subsequently later, I would run that recruiting program. And so I found out that for every 100 Marines that says, I want to be in counter intel, one would make it through the training pipeline. So we subsequently, like, I did finish that deployment, came back, finished the training. Um, Training took about 8 months and came back out on another deployment. More combat, more toughing it out, more explosions, more things. Did really well on that deployment. Um, Supported a Navy SEAL team for a bit on that deployment. Came back from that second deployment, was home for about a week, maybe 2 weeks. And my lieutenant calls me and he's like, "Hey, Dennis, you got to come in. You're deploying again." And I was like, "Man, we just got back like 2 weeks ago from a 7-month rotation. Like, this wasn't a 3-month thing, you know?" And he's
Right.
like, "Hey, look, we're looking for guys of your rank who did really well on deployment. We need you to go be a reports officer, kind of like a leader behind a desk, kind of guiding everybody in Kuwait. The desk job, like," and I was like, "Oh my God, that is like the last thing I want to do is another desk job." Anyway, to get into counterintelligence, you have to be kind of recruited and helped out and put in, right? And I'm going through everything and I go into this job and I can't get around to the bases and nobody knows where I'm supposed to be because I'm supposed to go to Kuwait for this thing. And I end up at this gate, this like nondescript gate at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's an army base. I'm like, what am I doing here? Just send me over. I just want to get this deployment done so I can come back and like go to the beach. And there's a little sign that says Joint Special Operations Command. I don't know what that is, right? I'm just a Marine. Like I'm doing Marine things. Like, and the next day they're like, "Hey, report here. You have to go through selection. You have to do all this stuff." And I'm like, "What? I don't know all these from all these branches of service. Everybody's there at 4 o'clock in the morning." We go into this big room. There's 75 people in there. I'm talking to people, you know, because I'm like one of two Marines that are in the building. They pulled the other one out basically and said, "You're not qualified." I'm the only one in there, the only one with combat experience, and I'm the only one who who's like basically active duty. Fast forward, I get through this selection, and it's a tier one special operations unit that requested me by name that I had no idea even existed. So then I end up doing a deployment with these guys, and these are the guys who just went into Venezuela and pulled out the leader of Venezuela. Like these are the best of the best, the army guys. So I do another deployment with them. And that's when I found like real leadership and real like this is where I want to be. Again, more combat, more explosions, more doing things where I jump up and hit my head, like all kinds of stuff, right? Interrogations gone bad, like all kinds of things. But I just suck it up. And then in 2012, I was supposed to go back to a unit like that, but then the Marine Corps was like, "No, we don't want to let you go. You can go for 5 years." And the unit said, "No, you come for the rest of your career." And the Marine Corps said, "No, fine, you can't go at all." And I was like, "You know what? I'm tired of this." And that's when I had met my wife through a rock climbing gym because I was always climbing and following my passion this entire time, keeping myself grounded by going out climbing and doing the things that I love. And I got out.
Hmm.
And so that's during that time, I didn't know this until later, and I can tell this story. I would suffer at least what they could see on MRIs, 6 traumatic brain injuries, and they even found evidence of a stroke I didn't know I had.
Hmm.
And so I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, but I didn't find that out. I got out in 2012. I didn't find that out till late 2018.
So was this what was sort of set up the 2020? What?
They're not 100% sure what set up that second stroke. Like, apparently
Right.
once you've had a stroke, you're more
Yep.
susceptible to more. And
Yep.
then there's evidence showing that people with traumatic brain injuries are even more
More
susceptible to stroke
susceptible.
because our
Yep.
autonomic nervous systems don't work right.
Yep.
So that's why they think there wasn't like oh, you had like high cholesterol or like all of you were a smoker. Like it was just
Right.
bad luck,
Right.
I guess. Right. But it doesn't change anything, right? I'm like, okay, I got this diagnosis. I can't change it. I can't be like, okay, thanks. Like now that you diagnosed me, um, now what? Like you gave me a piece of paper with a name on it. That's all. You didn't physically do anything to me. Like I have to do that myself.
Right. Right. Did
Um,
anything so what significantly changed physically in 2020?
so between 2012 and 2018, I realized I had balance issues, and I had what's called after they found the first stroke and the brain injuries, they diagnosed me with what's called known as ataxia. So it's a lack of coordination and balance and proprioception. But it was fairly mild, right? Like I could still ride a two-wheel bike, not gracefully, more like a toddler, like a giant toddler. But it wasn't pretty, right? And I was riding in this veterans organization, um, and they're like, "Yeah, man, like you ride like off the front or off the back. We're not riding anywhere near you. Like, you're a mess on the bike." But then after that second stroke, it like partially paralyzed my left side. And so now I only have about 40% strength, like on my left side. Like my hand strength is like really good from growing up rock climbing. I think I was in with the doctor the other day and they did like one of those hand strength tests and they were like, whoa.
Wow.
And then I did it with my other hand and they were like, oh my gosh, like it's a huge deficit.
Yeah.
So it affected my left side really bad, and it just exacerbated that ataxia. So instead of kind of walking slightly off balance, then not now I have to walk with forearm crutches. I can walk around the house, I can walk around like a building, whatever, as long as there's something like if I start to tumble and I feel it, I can like stop myself. But anytime I'm out, just for safety and for kind of like rhythm, I walk with forearm crutches.
So let's go back to
Hmm.
that stroke and that time because I know that there are a lot of people listening that have had something unexpected come their way
Hmm.
that really is a mental and emotional setback, certainly,
Hmm.
physical of, well, now I can no longer do whatever it is, and that's my identity. That's who I am. Now, what's the point of any of it? And, you and I have some friends in common, JC Glick, where their entire work is around identity. We
Yeah.
have pro athletes that, for whatever reason, retire or get injured, and pro athlete was their identity, the military, first responders. And when all of a sudden that identity, that thing that I labeled myself, this is who I am, gets taken from us, there's a lot of people that spiral. And so for you back then in that moment, what was that like for you?
I would say the stroke in 2020 wasn't actually the point where I had an identity issue. The point where I had an identity issue was that 6 years between 2012 when I got out
Right.
and 2018 when I had my wife stopped me from committing suicide because my PTSD was so bad.
Hmm.
That was worse for me. So over these years, I went from, this like super trained spy guy, like tier one, to someone who couldn't even sleep at night without like having nightmares so bad it would wake her up every night, right? And I was forgetful and like I would forget stuff or I just wouldn't do things. She would be at work, I would be home with the kids. I would get nothing done. But then I would get mad when she's like, well, what did you do all day? And I'm like, well, I did all kinds of stuff. And I didn't do nothing. I didn't do anything that day.
Right.
Right. It was I had brain fog. I had all these issues. And I finally just came to the point where I was like, look, I'm just a liability to everybody. Like I'm a liability to society. I'm a liability to these kids. None of it was true. Right. I lost who I am. I used to be this guy. And now I'm just like, you
Yeah.
know, I struggled with the stay-at-home dad thing. Now I'm super proud of it,
Yeah.
right? But I had gone from like the top team in the world to being a stay-at-home dad. Like I'm not even working. Like who am I? Like what is this? And if I had tied my identity to my work, which I did, that's when I started having issues. And I talked with JC and I talk with lots of people and I talk with companies, I talk with people I coach. Like listen, what you do in your identity, that is just a small portion of who you are. And this is hard, especially for military veterans who are transitioning. And now I'm learning with athletes. You
Hmm.
know, the the Milano Cortina games just finished. There's going to be some people who aren't going to go on to their next game.
Yeah.
That is who they tied everything up. But they forget. I I could say I'm a Marine. My name is Dennis. I'm a United States Marine. But even when I got out, I had to re-identify myself as, look, I'm a Marine, I'm a husband, now I'm a father, and being a veteran and a Marine is just like one part of who I am. I mentioned I like cooking earlier, right? Like if I just have the main meal, like great, but like there's all these other things that then you're like, oh, that meal was so amazing, right? It's all of it combined. When I talk to people about identity, even when I talk to people at companies or in coaching about leadership, like, look, you're not, everything you do is not your job. Like, that's just one part of it. And then being vulnerable enough to understand that and being vulnerable enough to open up and have that self love that I talk about a lot and be like, look, I am worthy of love because of who I am, because of all these different things that I do. It makes you a better person, it makes you more holistic, it'll make you a better leader at work, it'll make you a better partner in the home, it'll make you a better parent. All of those things come back to redefining your identity and redefining perseverance.
So that moment where you talked about your wife who stepped in and stopped you from
Mhm.
making a permanent decision, what was it that got you out of that hole? When you think back to your darkest time to, you know, really figuring out identity and what matters to you and how you show up and who you are and what this lifetime means to you, what most pulled you out of that?
I think it was my kids and my wife. I think at some point it was like, like like it's okay. I definitely had my friends and my community. Like that's a huge part of pulling me out. But it wasn't until I hit that bottom, I didn't hit the very bottom because there's no coming back from that one. But I had hit the bottom to the point where like the next day I was done. And I took that first step in vulnerability. I was like not a vulnerable person at all, right? Like I was just like this tough guy. And I finally was like, okay, like I'll get help. I opened up and I got help. But it took time and it took, you know, action and it took disciplined action. I talk about that a lot too. Like not just, okay, I'm gonna go see a therapist, like whatever therapist works. I mean, it took me a month and like five therapists to find one that really fit and that like understood what I did. She was actually a military reservist. So she kind of understood a little bit better than just like a civilian,
Yeah.
therapist. And that was huge. And so then I took that first step in being vulnerable and opening up and realizing that like, oh look, all these people do love me. I'm not a liability. these kids need me, my wife needs me, my parents need me, my in-laws need me, my family, my brother, my sister, my uncle, like all my community around me, like it would be a huge loss if I was to have taken my own life. And like that was really heavy to deal with. Um, and so my therapist did help me through that process. And, from 2018 to 2020, I had made a 180. Like fully, I was dealing really well. I was sleeping through the night. I was still taking some medication, but I had mostly gone off of the medication. Um, yeah, and everything was great. And then just that one afternoon, evening came in, and then my wife's like, I think something's wrong. And she called 911 and the paramedics showed up and sure enough, they're like, "You're having a stroke." And
Well, of the things that are divine intervention, certainly I would imagine it was a good thing that didn't happen any sooner, that you got your footing under you and were a lot more on
mhm,
solid ground emotionally and spiritually before
yeah,
another wallop coming your way, right?
yeah,
Thank goodness for that. For the person that's listening, though, right now, that is in that place,
mm,
feels that the world would be better off without me. I'm not a contributor to anything or anyone, and I went through today and yesterday and the day before that doing nothing and contributing nothing, and I think tomorrow and the next day will be the same. If you were specifically talking to that person, and let's pile on, it's a little challenging time out there right now. We have a very divisive world and people that
mhm,
can't seem to get along over any given topic. And, I think people hit a point of overwhelm and
mhm,
exhaustion, and what's the
mhm,
point of any of it? Um, so if you're talking to that person because 'cause you've been there, and you know what that is, no different than, imagining if you, in this moment, could go back and talk to you at that bottom point,
yeah,
what would you say to that person or to you back then?
yeah. I would say you are worthy of love. That's the first thing. Listen, you are worthy of love. And then I would have them do one of the strongest exercises that my therapist made me do. She said, "You need to write down a list of every single person you know and love. Write it down, like literally everybody. And all those people, you can ask for help. Pick one, call them, ask for help. Right now, tell them what's going on." And I did that. Like I wrote it down, and like in the session, we called somebody, and I was like, "Hey, this is what's happening." And they were like, "Do you need me to come up? I'll fly up right now." I came up with like this plan where I had like 5 people, and I talked to every single one of them, and every single one of them was like, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I will be there for you no matter what. And I didn't think that would happen at all.
Right.
Like I was like, there's no way. But then every single one of those people told me that. And it
Yeah.
was shocking.
Yeah.
And then I think I say this in my TED talk that I did a while ago that like when I was on one of these veterans bike rides, this guy gave a metaphor for suicide. That it was like gathering all the people you know and love into a single room, bringing the ones you love the most closest to you, and setting off a suicide vest, a suicide bomb. Like you take your own life, but you severely hurt and maim everybody you know and love. And like, could you do that? And it was like really profound because I had just gone through that exercise of literally like writing down everybody.
Everyone.
And so it
Yeah.
was huge. And so it's like, look, you are worthy of love and you are worthy of those things and they will get you through. And so you talk about the stroke in 2020 and I already gone through that dark period of my time and I knew I could get through hard stuff. I also had cycling that I was into, like, and I was brand new to it. So I was like, I want to do this. It is making my mental health better. It is giving me some identity. It is giving me community.
Yeah.
It makes everybody around me happy when I do it. because I'm more fulfilled because I'm doing something that I love, like, and I had that stroke and I was like, well, I can't ride a bike anymore. Well, yeah, I can. I can ride a bike. I can ride a bike. And 9 months of therapy and 7 months into it, therapist was like, I just don't think it's going to happen for you. Luckily, I had a community of para athletes and a coach who was a Paralympic cycling coach. And he was like, let's put you on a trike, on through a bike. I was like, absolutely not. I
Right.
am not riding that.
Right.
And he was like, just try it. And I tried it. And I was like, I should have been on this from the start. Like, and so it was great. And so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like this is just who I am. And I had the vulnerability to understand my new disabilities and my new body. I had the identity of all those other things that I was in life,
Yeah.
right? And to have that self-love and be like, okay, like I'm gonna love myself for being this person. I'm still enough. Like I'm still a dad. I'm still a husband. I'm not any different. I can't run around at the park anymore, but I'm still there. I'm still present. And so I had to redefine that. Like I had to redefine perseverance, like for myself, and using like that process that exact same process that I used to get through the PTSD, I used to get through that stroke. And I still use it. I use it in my training today. I use it when I'm coaching. I use it in talks. I use it with my kids. I had an injury, pretty severe injury last August. I crashed at the World Championships, separated my shoulder, had to have complete reconstruction surgery. Um, but that's okay. It's part of it. Like I'm not any less. I'm not any more. I learned from it,
Yeah.
and I just keep going. And there's always a way to adapt.
And it is something, isn't it, when we focus more on the things that we can't do or the things we don't have versus the things we can do and the things that we do
Hmm.
have. And those are always there, you know,
Hmm.
always available. I find it so great you calling all of the people and reaching out. Another thing I know that comes out of doing things like that, reaching out to people that you might not have otherwise is, it's very easy for us to think we're the only one with this problem. We're
Uh-huh.
the only one struggling. We're the only one having a difficult time. And the more you reach out to people and connect on a real and vulnerable level, you find out that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And then somebody shares what they're struggling with. And all of a sudden you think, well, shoot, we can make it together. And that's also a very real and humbling and simultaneously uplifting thing going, I'm not the only one who struggles. I'm not the only one who's, having a rough time. And you realize that even with the difficult time, you're okay. And you're still worth all that and then some, even with the difficulties, even with the setbacks. And I think that connection, that humanness one of the biggest things that I talk to for folks struggling with PTSD is one of the worst things is isolation because your
Hmm.
mind will tell you all kinds of crazy stories, none of which are real and none of which are true. But the more we can be connected and talk to someone else and go, maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another possibility. It's not all bad. There may be a part that's
Yeah.
bad, but it's not all bad. And so I love this. And I love your perseverance is not just on the physical side, but let's talk about that. So, in what you're doing now and what you're
Yep.
up to now, past a lot of the setbacks, so that people also can level set on what you're doing. I mean, truly, when we talk about elite athlete, you're no joke. So, what are you up to now? What are you training for? And I want to get the driver and the motivation behind it because I get following a love for a sport. Here's something I enjoy doing. But there's a difference between I enjoy bike riding or I enjoy climbing and taking it to the true elite level, which is where you are.
Yeah.
So let's walk through what you're actually doing and training for now and what drives that. Because it's extreme. I mean, let's be honest. You're in the top percent of everybody out there. So where does that come from and why, do you think?
In retrospect, I think my entire life has been high performance. Like I never like I think it's just an intrinsic drive I have, and it's weird and it's hard to put words to, but in everything I do, I like to be like world class, right? Like I learned how to make bread like I don't know, 2013 or something. I like got really into making bread, and like I got to a point where people were just like, "You should start a bakery. Those are amazing pieces of artwork," and I'm just like, and like I
Right.
had it like down, right? And so like be growing up being on the U.S. climbing team, then joining the Marines versus the other branches, and then going into special operation or going into the counterintelligence field, right? And then going into special operations command. Like I was always that. And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I fell right back into that climbing world, right? And I was climbing at an elite able-bodied level, like falling right back in with sponsorships. And then I started really snowboarding and getting a couple sponsorships for that. Like it, and it's just kind of how I've always operated. Like, and not everybody's like that, and that's okay.
Right.
But I've just always operated at a super high level, and I'm like an extremely competitive person, which is good and bad sometimes. Like, um, I joke that like I'm actually only training right now so then I could always be faster than my kids, no matter what. No, but no, I love competition, and I think that's really what drives it. I'm also super passionate about representing our country. And you mentioned that like we're in a very divisive time. A lot of people don't get along. Um, but I see the Olympics and Paralympics as a time that like we can all come together. And I like to represent what is the best about our country to the world, right? This work ethic, this love, this community. Um, that is, I feel like what embodies the American spirit. And I love wearing the flag and representing that side of it to the world. And so right now I'm training, in paracycling. That's my main sport. I'm still climbing and I'm still snowboarding, although I have to miss this season of snowboarding due to my shoulder injury. No snowboarding this year. Um, and then training mostly cycling. We have a home world championships this year in 2026. It's in Alabama, where we have raced in the past, both domestically and had an international race there, and I did really well. So my goal is to win both events at the world championships there. So two more world champion titles, and then that starts the kind of 27 and 28 into the Los Angeles Paralympic Games, where I got a gold medal or I got a silver medal in Paris, and I'm hell bent on a gold medal at our games in LA. I'm from Southern California, born and raised there. To win a gold medal in California will just be, I might have to retire after that, like, because I don't know what else you're gonna do, right? Like that would be like the pinnacle of everything that I've worked towards, and not only myself worked towards, but like my family and my community helping me out. Like this isn't an individual sport, right? Like this is
Right.
a community that's behind us. And as Paralympic athletes, we have to lean on that community aspect of it even more. Like the USOPC, the Olympic and Paralympic Committee, they pay us equally, able Olympic and Paralympic. But then when it comes down to it, most of the attention is on the Olympic side.
Right.
And these pro athletes, like wheelchair basketball players are not making $40 million a year on an NBA team. Like,
Right.
and Paralympic swimmers and track and field athletes, they're getting some sponsor. Maybe one or two guys are getting
Right.
sponsorships, but majority aren't. Um, so a lot of us have full-time jobs where I'm doing keynote speaking, I'm doing this executive coaching. I'm kind of excited because I'm working on releasing something about being a stay-at-home dad that I think a lot of
Oh,
people would be interested in.
very cool.
Um, and we have to work on top of our training, on
Right.
top of our disabilities.
Right.
You know, I'm not
Right.
on a team that competes at the Tour de France and getting paid a salary. Like
Right.
there is no salaries in the Paralympic world. So it just makes it that much more difficult to do. Like it takes resources. It takes resources to travel. It takes resources for recovery. It takes resources for equipment. I'm not getting free bikes like the tour riders are with like like I have to buy
Right.
every piece of that
Right.
bike. Like I have the same bikes plus adaptive parts
Right.
on it. And it just makes it that much more expensive. So I think Paralympic athletes, myself included, we do have to push this boundary of perseverance. It is harder. If we continue to try to grit through this, we're not going to make it. So just
Yeah.
working on that and focusing on, like, okay, what can I do? How can I spread my story? How can I inspire people? How can I help people? How can I help teams? How can I help executives with a different mindset? I have this, everybody loves hearing from the Navy SEALs and the special forces, like these shooter guys. It's great. But like I tell people, they can't go do their job unless I tell them where to go. There's always an intel guy in the background doing that kind of work. And a lot of those guys become the intel guys, the human intelligence collectors collecting that information. And like through speaking and through coaching, I'm just trying to be the intel guy with that piece of information and communicate it back to the world.
So with that, kind of legacy and the goals that you have and the message that you're sharing and everywhere that you are, which the world certainly needs, LA is going to come and go. You're going to get your
Hmm.
gold medal. It's going to be there on the wall with great pride.
Yep.
So, fast forwarding, what is your legacy? What why were you here in this lifetime? How will you be most remembered and what will you be most proud of?
I think it's two things. One is that I redefined how to persevere. Perseverance doesn't look like grit, right? And you have to figure out what your perseverance is. And I am willing to help people with that. The second part of this whole thing is following the things that you love to do. As a stay-at-home dad, and this kind of drives me a little bit crazy every time I see it. And maybe if there's some moms listening to this, you could see it. I used to go to like these like mommy and me baby exercise classes,
Mhm.
and because they're like, oh no, no, it's a parent in me. You're more than welcome. It's a mommy in me. It's
That's funny.
all the dads out there. It's a mommy in me. But I would see these moms, and then I see others too that just give up everything that they love to do, everything that makes them who they are, either for their kids or for their job or for something else, right?
Yeah,
And then a lot of them will have success and they get to a point where it's like, well, now what do I do?
right.
Well, if you never gave up that thing that you love, it will drive you the whole time and it will drive you through work, right? Like my wife is a big time outdoors person, loves skiing. And so we have made sure that we do those things. Like we go climbing, we go skiing, we are in the outdoors because of those are the things we love to do. And she has been very successful in her career, and I have been very successful in my career because we're grounded in the things that we love.
Right.
So I will love to help people find that afterwards. And I think a lot of that stems from internal reflection, right? And figuring out who you are. And you can't do that digitally.
Right.
And so with my master's degree in outdoor recreation, my climbing background, my athletic background, my leadership from the military, um, 10 years of leading intelligence operations, I really want to get people connected through disconnecting outside.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we can really have, you can think, You can have some time, you can self-reflect, you can redefine your own perseverance, and you can find the things that you love and then never give up on them.
I think that that is such a great piece of advice because I know that so many people, somewhere between age 40 and 50, wake up one day and say, I, somewhere along the way, lost myself. Right? I
Mhm.
mean, I'm just nose down doing the job, sun up, sun down, over and over, year after year, decade after decade, and I don't even know who I am. And so, to stop and think if you're especially if you're young and in your 20s, the easier plan is don't lose yourself to begin with.
Yeah.
Know who you are, know what you love, and it's not this or that. It's how is it this and that,
Right.
and how can you make it work? And we all can, we all can. I mean, holy cow, if you can, none of us have any excuse. That's the reality of it. Is you are a fantastic inspiration for what is possible, what is
Thank you.
doable, and I'm thrilled that you're here. People who want to follow you, and they need to, certainly over these next couple of years coming up, you've got some big ones. Where do people find you? I'm going to have a link, obviously, the TED Talk, but where do people find you? What is the best way to stay connected through your journey and to continue to support you by cheering you on behind the scenes and to continue to be inspired by you as well? Where is the best place for that?
So the first place you can go is to my website, dennisconnorsusa.com, and I'm sure we'll put that in the show
Yep.
notes. Um, and then I'm really active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I'm a little more active on Instagram, but I am in my 40s, so I am not super good at it. I'm getting better. Um, and I am a former counterintelligence operator, so I am not active on TikTok, and it will never go on my phone.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, that's
and you can also just simply Google search Dennis Connors, Connors. A lot of people mess that up.
yep.
And I should come up right away. And then
Yep.
any of those things you can reach out. You can reach out to me that way. And then if you're interested in supporting this journey, you can reach out to me. I'm always looking for sponsors. I am always looking for keynotes. I'm always looking for people to coach. It also helps me spread my message.
Great.
So reach out if you're interested. I appreciate it. My family appreciates it. And then it'll just allow me to show what's best in America right now and bring that to the world.
Perfect. Well, yes, all of that will be in show notes. And so if you're out cycling right now, don't worry. By the time you get back, you can just go back and click on that, and it will be linked to everything that you had just mentioned. So I wrap the show up the same way every time. So this will be no different. Final question for you. What
Yes.
is one thing that you absolutely believe to be true?
But the sun will rise tomorrow.
Hmm.
No matter what, no matter how hard things are, the sun will rise tomorrow. Like there's always a way to adapt. There's always another way. There's always a way to think about something. But listen, the sun will rise tomorrow. Night will end. The darkness will end.
And I can't imagine a better testament to that statement. You have lived through it many times over. So thank you for your service. Thank you for being here, sharing your light and your message. I know that you have touched a lot of people's hearts through this conversation, and I am truly honored to get to spend this time with you. And I will be cheering you on here as you go for gold. I can't
Yeah,
wait
thank
for
you.
that to happen. So, truly, thank you for everything that you do. And I will promote this and have as many people come your way to support you as well. So, thank
Thank you.
you,
I really
truly.
appreciate that. And I hope to see everybody in LA. Like it's a home
Yes.
games.
I'm
You can
tell
sign up
I'm
for tickets. Don't forget,
yeah,
there's a ticket sign up right now, and then the ticket draw will happen. So sign up for tickets. And the cool part about road biking is it's typically free because you just
there you
stand
go.
on the side of the road and watch.
There you go. That I'm assuming the course is published. People can
Yep.
figure out where you're gonna go
I
zipping
don't think
by.
it's published yet, but
Okay. It
yeah,
will be.
yeah, it will be soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, I look forward to that. I'm a Southern California girl as well. I'm excited for this. And like I said, you've got my full support. I look forward to it. And I look forward to sending you the message saying, good job on the gold.
Yeah,
No
thank
surprise
you.
to anyone. So fantastic. And for everybody watching or listening, thank you so much for being a part of the Game Changer podcast.